Okay, guys, welcome to a new video. We're gonna be going ins and outs of the manifesto. I know we already read over it, but I kind of wanted to put things together into a more possible way to understand, and how to like we've talked with other people and figured out what exactly is going to be the best, what we think could have been done, what should have been done, how does this actually hurt us, and how does it hurt or benefit the majority of players, not just like the top percent of players that are playing the game. So we're gonna kind of go over what's going on and why they wanted to do this. Okay, so the manifesto is kind of like a slap to the face to pretty much every single player except for maybe the 1%. So why is this a problem? Well, let's look up the two issues that we have. Okay, so there are two big things. The second bullet point right here, where it says some mods that have overly deterministic behaviors have been removed. These include all annulment mods, other than the ones that remove a mod that isn't of a specific type before adding one of that type, and all specific type divine mods. Okay, so what does that mean? So that means that they took out all of the remove physical, add physical, remove lightning, add lightning, anything that has a deterministic like remove specific one to another. But it also leaves in the ones that are it leaves in the remove non to something, right? So remove non-physical to physical, those are still there, right? Because those are not specific to specific, it's non-specific to a specific. So they're leaving those ones in, but they've got rid of all the other ones that basically remove one kind and put another one in. Now the other part is the divine mods. So there are going to be no more randomizes, no more randomized lightning, no more randomized life. You're gonna have to use divine orbs for that. Sorry, they removed them all. Okay, now if that was the only thing that they decided to take out, that would have been okay. That's like, okay, that's, I could see that. We could still work around that and whatever. But the problem is the next one that's coupled with it really hurts everything. Okay, crafts that add mods of specific types like physical modifiers, for example, to an item can now only be applied to a non-influenced item. Are you kidding me? So basically anything that was non-physical to physical, or non-life to life, cannot be put on an influenced item. Because those two are put together, that cuts out all of the stuff that we want to do, right? Because most of the items that we're going to be crafting on are influenced items, especially the exploding chest. So is there a way to still get an exploding chest? Yes, but it's not very good. Okay, you can get a influence chest and put an influence modifier on an influenced item if your suffixes are full and you already have, say, two of the if you already have two on here, right? So if you have increased maximum mana and you have the let's say the other one of the damage hits from taken as lightning damage, right? Let's say you have both of those, that still leaves out the consecrated ground, right? So then you have a 500 weight versus a 25 weight on the explode chest. That's not good. That's not good at all. So it's gonna be super expensive to get an explode chest. The other ways are alteration spamming or alchemy spamming, or if you really want to do the dreaded, which I highly don't recommend, chaos spamming, which we'll get into in just a minute. You're trying to get these high-end gear is going to be like very difficult, especially I cater to the people who are the the casual gamers, the normal gamers, and I tried to push them up towards the higher higher 10% of the population. That's what I do on my channel, right? So with this, bye, they don't care about the 90% or the 95% of the player base. Apparently they just got rid of it, right? They only care about the people who are creating mirror tier items, and they don't want that. They don't want to progress anyone who is the casual gamer. They're not catering to it. If they would have taken this away, they should have given us a buff with it, right? So they should have given us something useful. Oh wait, they did. Let's see. The fourth bullet, the chance of encountering a portal in the Sacred Grove has now been increased by 60%. Oh wait, that only means 3%. Okay, so it's originally 5. You take 60% of 5 and you get an additional 3. So now it's 8%. Okay. So you increase the how often it goes, but you took away all of the good crafts with no additional way of making a item that is actually usable. Granted, there are still items that don't require influences. Okay, so we'll get to that. But really a 60% increase in the number of sacred groves? I guess that's okay. It'll come around a little more often. I mean, you know, we're going to use a Maven and, you know, increase that percentage, so maybe it'll be more often. I don't know. The other thing with this, okay, let's go up here. GGD, you know, is saying that they did this because they want everyone to have a specific, you know, they don't want them to have deterministic means, right? So we don't want to have a craft that is going to be doing it. Now, this sentence right here, okay, our initial plan for harvest crafting. Now, this gets me. This is what's really annoying. Using currency items like exalted orbs or chaos orbs on your gear is a powerful, risky, and exciting way to improve it. Who uses exalted orbs on gear except for the 0.1%? No one uses it. I've never used an exalted orb on a piece of gear unless it's a 100% chance of getting it. You don't do it. Chaos orb spamming? Very few people are going to use chaos orbs as opposed to just buying the item, right? I mean, like, why? No. The general person, the 90% of people are never going to use an exalted orb. If you've used an exalted orb on a piece of gear down below, please write a comment. Like, write a comment if you've ever used an exalted orb, or if you've not used an exalted orb, put a comment down below. Like, I'm serious. Like, maybe 1% of the population is actually going to use exalted orbs. I would say maybe 10% will use chaos orbs on some kind of item, right? But to be honest, who uses exalted orbs and chaos orbs on a gear? They'd rather just, you know, buy the gear. And the next part here, risky and exciting way to improve it. Seriously? Who's excited to slam exalted orbs onto something and not get anything? Like, that's ridiculous. They're like, the 1% is going to be the 1%. They're always going to be the 1%. They're not going to be the 98%, 99% of the rest of the population who doesn't do these crafts, right? So they're hurting the rest of the population by doing this. Okay, this is why it's so frustrating. But what can we still do now that we have these huge nerfs to the harvest crafting? Well, we can still add a random influence like I talked about. So if you do have a dual influence prefix on a, you know, a crusader chest piece, you can now throw on another influence on there and, you know, pray that 1 out of 20 chance will actually land on your exploding chest after you spend, you know, 3x on that craft. So, it's ridiculous. Since we can't do any targeted type of craft on influenced items, so no non-physical to physical, because it says right there, any mods with specific types can no longer be applied to non-influenced, or can only be applied to non-influenced items. That just kills it so bad. Well, what are other ways we can still use? Well, we can still use harvest with the fractures. So you can still fracture a map, or, you know, fracture a weapon with a +3 or a +1 to all spell gem, or, you know, whatever, right? But again, that's only going to be like the top 5 or 10% of the population that's going to be doing it. The other 90% are not going to be using that. Synthesized items, again, only going to be the top 1% of the items are going to be using synthesized items. They're all high end. That has nothing to do with the 90% or the casual players. Like, it doesn't. And you know, we can still craft like a bow, for instance, the +1 bows. You don't need to have a type of influence on there, so you can still craft that one. But we're limiting a lot of gear to not being able to be harvest craftable at all. And if there are, it's very slim and it's going to be extremely expensive. So there's problems, right? The problems with trading. We have several issues, okay? They mentioned it in here. They don't like the Discord channel, the TFT Discord channel. I get that, okay? We should be playing the game inside the game and inside the game only, right? We shouldn't have to go to a secondary program that is not supported by the game. We have to go to a Discord channel, search on a Discord channel for a random person who we have no idea if they're gonna scam us or not, give them our item, they craft on it, and hope that they give it back to us. One, it's risky. Two, it's just stupid. We shouldn't have to do that. There are other ways that we could do this. We're wasting our time having to go through the Discord, having to search the Discord, having to wait for a person to get to us, and then having to do all of this extra work, and then finally we get our craft, and look at that, someone stole it. Okay, granted, not everyone is scammers, but there are scammers out there, and they will exploit the system any way that they can because they can. Okay, now those are problems. But how did GGG solve this? Well, they basically put these two things on here, which makes harvest, you know, completely useless. Good solve, GGG. So by solving the problem, by making harvest useless, you made the TFT Discord useless for harvest craft. Good job. That's a great way of doing it. So how could we have done this better, guys? There are a couple of ideas that I've come up with. Okay, one of them is having the specific deterministic ones, have them be a, if you craft on such item, then it is now account bound. Okay, that would still cater to, you know, everyone. So it would make it so you wouldn't have to have the TFT Discord, right? Because then no one's going to want to do it, because, you know, you give someone your item, they're going to craft on it, it's now theirs, right? They can't take it. Now that has a problem with itself, right? So if you do that, then you can't, it takes out it defeats the whole purpose of trading, right? You can't create items to sell it. You would basically be able to create it for yourself only. Now that, I guess, would be kind of a downside, but on a good side, we'd still have the craft and we could still make our characters really strong, and then use those characters to go through other ways of making currency. There is so many different ways of making currency in the league that this is just one of them. Now you make the gear for yourself and it becomes super strong and you use it. Awesome, right? That's great. But you won't be able to trade those items, they're linked to your account, so you can only trade them between your different characters. That's one way they could have solved this problem. Another way they could have solved it so that we don't have to use the Discord is to use like a vending machine style. So you already have the crafting bench, you determine a price that you want it on there. Someone searches your craft, they come to your bench, and boom, they use your craft. The item never touches your hands. It's always in the person who's doing the craft. It's theirs. They don't have to worry about it. There's no way of scamming it. They do the craft, it's done. You're done. That's that. That's another way of doing it. Both parties are happy. A third way that we came up with is that Oshabi could create a fragment like at an extremely low rate, or whatever, that allows you to essentially capture that harvest and give it to someone else. Okay, so that's another way that, like, if you did like the account bound type style, if you have an account bound and you have Oshabi dropping these fragments, because right now Oshabi is worthless. Okay, there's no point in doing Heart of the Grove. I'm serious, there's not. It's horrible drops. It's a boss that has a lot of life for the casual player that can't even do it. So what's the point? Oshabi is like useless. So why don't you give her a fragment that allows us to capture, just like we can do for the beast crafts. You can capture one of the beasts and you can trade one of those beasts, or for like a prophecy, right? A prophecy can also be captured and you can trade one of their prophecies. It's the same type of thing. Why can't you do that with harvest crafts for specific ones? And then you could trade those specific ones and you don't have to worry about having all these scammers. And you don't have to go to a Discord channel to have them. You can search them on your website. Those are ways that we could do it. Those would be solutions. Instead, they remove all of the crafts and make it so that this third bullet here, where items can only apply to non-influence items if they have a specific type. So once you like awakener or your two, bases together, or if you have an influence base or whatever, you cannot harvest craft on it unless it specifically says applies to an influence mod to an influenced item. I mean, these are the problems. So this is why this has been such a huge issue. If we go to the forums and we look at this, we go to the development manifesto. Okay, let's look at this. Okay, right here is the harvest crafting manifesto. Look how many replies there are. 3,731 replies. If we go to any other manifesto, look at this. None of them. There's one here, but it's Path of Nerfs, again, only has 1,600. We go back a year. Let's go back 2 years. Let's go back, even further. There is nothing that is over 1,000 other than that Nerf one, which was a year ago. This one has 3 times that amount. The Reddit page has like 8,000 comments on it. It's ridiculous because everyone is upset because of how bad this really hurts. If they would have gone with just the top one, that would have been okay. But because they did the second one, it just cut out all possible crafting for like the majority of stuff, right? Cluster jewels, still do our cluster jewels, luckily, because those are not considered influence, right? Again, we don't have targeted exalted orbs anymore. It's only the non to whatever. So I guess you could still use it for that, but again, I don't know. They didn't say anything about the straight up augments though. So maybe they got rid of those. Maybe they got rid of all of augments too. So no more straight up augs. But it doesn't say anything about it. So I'm assuming they still left all like the standard like aug physical or whatever. That's still there. But again, you cannot use that on an influenced item. I don't know. It's this whole thing with this is really gonna hurt. And coming from a 20% increase in population this league, their average is like 120 at league start, right? For the first week, 120. This league was 157,000. That's a 20% increase. And I think one of the biggest reasons people came back was because of the harvest. And then they do this to it. I'm really curious to see what happens next league and see what the population looks like. They better have a dang good league that is going to make up for this huge game-changing aspect of the game. This doesn't just affect, this doesn't even affect the 1% really. They're still going to have all the currency to do whatever they want. They're still going to do everything that they want to do. This is going to hurt the other 98-99% of the population who would have used harvest crafting for their own stuff instead of crafting for more money, right? I want to know what your comments are down below. I want to know what you think's going to happen, and like what other ways do you think they could solve this? And honestly, please comment below if you've used an exalted orb or not on your crafting. I am generally like really curious about like if you've ever used an exalted orb on a piece of gear. I mean, it's like not gonna happen. But yeah, so that's, you know, those are my thoughts and my rant on this whole harvest issue. And I hope that they listen to us, and I hope they take off the non-influenced items. If they take out that second, or this, you know, the second nerf here, that would really put things back. Okay, we could do with just the first one. The second one is what really hurts everyone. And yeah, with that, like I said, it's going to be a very interesting league on 3.14. We'll see what happens. They better have something dang good to make it for this horrible the nerf that they just did. And don't forget, guys, to like, subscribe, and ding the bell for future videos. And until next time, guys, peace out.